Where's Santa?
Hey, it's Allie. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. It's time for some magic, some whimsy, and some fun because Lord knows we need it right now. I asked you guys what your favorite Christmas specials were, and in the last video, I went over 3 movies that I had never seen before, and those were all great. You guys gave amazing recommendations. And today, we're going to go over some TV Christmas specials. So go ahead, if you haven't seen that one, go ahead and give it a watch, you know? Go ahead. There's no particular order in watching them, so don't worry about that. You can watch it after this video if you want to. So sit back, grab a snack, grab some hot cocoa, and let's relive our childhoods, shall we? If at any time you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe because I make videos like this all the time. And comment down below if you watched any of these as a kid. Now, all of the movies in the last video I did not watch, but I've watched every single one except for the Ed, Edd and Eddy one in this video, so let me know if you've watched them, how you feel about them, and let's jump into it. Now, I think I legally have to tell you that this is the best Christmas special ever made. I know we're starting off real strong here, but I had to. You cannot talk about Christmas specials without talking about the GOAT. Well, Sponge in this case. And that is, of course, Season 2, Episode 8 of Spongebob, Christmas Who. It follows Spongebob as he learns about the myth of Santa Claus and Christmas. Because I guess implying that Santa Claus exists underwater also implies underwater Jesus and underwater Christianity. Thinking about fish religion aside, the episode starts out with the president of the Spongebob fan club, Patchy the Pirate, as he gets ready for Christmas. Why is he munching on that like that? Oh my god. Also, please enjoy the practical effects of these. Like, they went above and beyond with these specials. SpongeBob has so much heart and creativity in it. It is so heartbreaking to see the way that it has gone now. I like, obviously the animators probably still love anime. Well, actually, I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna speak for them. But the animators are doing their jobs, okay? But like, the fact that SpongeBob has gone on for as long as it has is pretty much blasphemy in my heart. And going back and seeing all of the, you know, practical effects, the really weird detailed shots that happen sometimes in these episodes, I don't know, it makes me feel like, oh, there was some heart and soul put into this. Patchy gets a letter from
Name and address withheld.
and they ask if SpongeBob loves Christmas, which he then launches into a story of how Christmas came to be in Bikini Bottom because it wasn't always there. Because, you know, no fish Jesus. Also, wouldn't that mean Bikini Bottom is technically uncolonized land? Because one of the biggest markers of like colonization was like Christianity and like the big 3 religions. So does that mean that technically Sandy colonized Bikini Bottom? You ever wonder why Sandy, you know, squirrel from Texas, knows karate? Like, where did she learn karate, girl? Anyway, Sandy tells SpongeBob about Christmas and he then spreads it to everybody else. Everybody pretty much automatically believes him. I don't know why, maybe because it's coming from Sandy and Sandy's supposed to be like the smartest person ever, but everybody believes him except for Squidward, which like I guess is supposed to be like everybody in the town is just as, I guess in this case, in Squidward's eyes, gullible. Though that doesn't make a whole lot of sense because there's a lot that this town goes through in these first couple of seasons with SpongeBob that absolutely doesn't show that. But hey, it's Christmas. We're not going to talk about it. You know that millennial meme that's like, as a kid, I was SpongeBob, and now as an adult, I'm Squidward? Bro, now as a slightly older adult, I am back to being SpongeBob. I no longer want to be nihilistic. I no longer want to be Squidward, please. So SpongeBob somehow has an engineering degree, but doesn't have a driver's license because he made this machine by hand to send things to the surface. How did he do that? Did he go to college?
You know what's crazy? This is good, bro. This is good. But why not put this energy into a job or something? Like,
and then they play this absolute banger, which I probably cannot play, but I remember having this song on my little iPod. Not an iPod. I had an iPod much later, past when the iPod was at its prime. I had a little pink, cheap MP3 player that my mom probably got off of a market street somewhere, and I loaded that thing with so many illegal songs on it. As soon as I learned how to burn music onto CDs. I'm talking about my childhood crimes, but I would burn music onto CDs and play that shit on loop. Like every weekend, I would like come home from school, it'd be the weekend, I'd go onto YouTube, I'd look up music, and I would copy and paste the links into like a CD burner website, and I would download that music onto the CD, and I had a CD player at some point, and then when we changed to like MP3 players, that little pink, little cheap ass MP3 player, I would take that had so much illegal music on it, oh my god, especially from like TV shows and movies, and this was one of those songs. This was like a core memory for me, having this song on my MP3 MP3 player. Also, Sandy's not in this episode for like the rest of the episode. She's just gone. She just doesn't exist anymore. Like, she is not even in the like singing parts. Like, they just didn't invite her to the rest of like the Christmas festivities. I feel like she could have helped out and like telling the rest of Bikini Bottom about Christmas and like putting milk and cookies out and like all that stuff. Like, she's just not in the rest of the episode. Now, I will say this: if the people of Bikini Bottom were outside of my house singing all night, yeah, I'd be a little upset too. Yeah, go home. Don't you have jobs? So Santa doesn't come and SpongeBob's really dejected, and Squidward starts to act like a... And this is what I talk about when I talk about like family TV shows. Like, what kid is gonna understand this? I remember seeing this as a kid and laughing at it because I thought like the sound was just like, haha, he's being like a stupid idiot or like whatever, like whatever. I didn't really know that a donkey meant an ass back then, but I was laughing at the joke anyway. My mom watched this, she's laughing at it because a donkey means ass and she knows the joke and it's funny and she knows that there's like levels of like meta commentary under it, and that's what a lot of what early SpongeBob is, and I really do miss that about SpongeBob. So Squidward ends up feeling really, really bad about, you know, making fun of SpongeBob and the fact that he's so sad and he got one of the most beautiful handmade gifts ever. Like, also SpongeBob knows woodworking, but he still don't got a license. He then proceeds to give SpongeBob a gift from his own house, and then also proceeds to give the rest of Bikini Bottom's gifts from his own house. A truly selfless act. Santa Claus finally shows up. I guess he was a little bit too busy this year to come to Bikini Bottom, even though he was underwater at the end of this. Who knows? He was too busy to come to Bikini Bottom, but he'll come for the rest of the amount of time that SpongeBob is on. There's like, I think one more Christmas special after this, and the rest of the Christmas specials after this aren't really Christmas specials. They're looking back at old Christmas specials. Oh, don't piss me off. Do not piss me off. Anyway, Christmas is saved. Gotta love Squidward. And he goes back to being an asshole after this, because of course he does. I give this one 10 jellyfishes that are held against their will and forced to be ornaments out of 10. Okay, the next special we have is the Ed and Eddie special, Jingle, Jingle, Jangle. Jingle, Jingle, Jangle, Jingle, Jangle, Jingle. One of the two. Were you one of those kids whose parents didn't let them watch Ed and Eddie as a kid? Because I knew multiple kids in my neighborhood who were not allowed to watch this show. Like, when they came over to my house or when we would put on Cartoon Network, they would just be like, you can watch literally any other show but Ed, Ed and Eddie. And looking back at this special, I get it. My parents didn't care. They were like, if it's on Cartoon Network, then it must be good for kids. If it's not, then why would it be on Cartoon Network? Which is like, there's a point to that. Ed and Eddie was like the regular show of like that era of cartoons. Like, it was definitely pushing the envelope a little too far. Like, it's very clear they probably wanted to make a little bit more of an adult show, but they couldn't because this is a kids channel, so they ended up making that. Because there are some moments in this show that made me go, what would an Adult Swim version of Ed, Ed and Eddie look like? Now, I will say right now, I didn't really like this one. Now, this could just be because I don't have any personal emotional ties to Ed, Ed and Eddie. I didn't really watch the show, which is funny because considering I was able to watch the show and a lot of my friends weren't able to, I didn't watch it that often. I'd watch some episodes, but mostly I just thought Eddie was a dick. Like, I loved Ed, but I did not like Eddie, like, at all. And he's like the main character. So I never really watched the show as a kid. Like, I would watch some episodes and I know the basic gist of everyone's personalities, but that's about it. But I will say the best thing about this special, and I will give it this out of every other special in this lineup, the music. Ed, Ed and Eddie has always had like an amazing jazz score, and that doubles in this Christmas special. Like, I could sneak this into my parents. Like, they have an entire jazz Christmas playlist that they play every year. It's so nostalgic. I could slip this song in here and they would never notice. They legitimately would never notice that it was there. So Eddie basically hatches this plan to pretty much insert himself into somebody else's Christmas, get some other family to adopt him within the cul-de-sac that they live in, because he looked at his presents early and he realizes that he's getting clothes for Christmas, which, like, looking back on it, I was also like that as a kid. I was like, I don't want clothes for Christmas. I don't want clothes for Christmas. Mostly because, you know, I'm a big girl and I was a big girl back then too. And a lot of early 2000s clothes were not for big girls. So I hated getting clothes because it was like, it was tight. It was itchy. The Juicy Couture sweatsuits. Okay, I didn't have Juicy Couture, obviously. I had like whatever knockoff Juicy Couture was for like kids like Justice, but like that shit barely fit me, and it was like, I hated the like suede feeling of it. So I can relate as a kid not wanting clothes for Christmas. But now as an adult, please, I would love a gift card to like Old Navy or something. Old Navy? I could have said like H&M or something. I can't believe I defaulted to Old Navy. Anyway, Old Navy has some good stuff. All of my like sweatpants and stuff are from Old Navy. Don't knock it. Don't knock Old Navy, man. Ed is the best design character, bro. Look at that non-binary swag. Look at it. So the thing about this special is that it has a lot of like religious imagery in it, which I don't mind. Like it's literally Christmas, and there is no like word uttered about Jesus or Christianity within this. It's more of just like a funny parody, like telling of like the birth of Jesus, I guess, which is funny because then you're like, okay, who's Jesus? Can you take a guess at who Jesus is? I'll give you a hint. The three wise men are the three like bully, also homeless girls that also have crushes on Ed, Ed, and Eddie. They're the three wise men, and they go through this like journey as the like main story is like unfolding, so that at the end, when Eddie pretty much gets kicked out of like everybody's house for like trying to steal their presents, they all meet up in this like barn thing, and then he steals a bunch of presents again. He gets caught for that, and the three girls come back and they're like, oh, it's Eddie. He ends up in the like little baby carriage thing. Can you guess who was Jesus in this scenario? That was the biggest plot twist at the end. They was just like, oh yeah, Eddie is Jesus. And I'm like, why? And that's the other thing too, is he doesn't learn any lesson at the end. Like at the very, very end, you think he's gonna learn a lesson because he does this sweet little selfless act, and you think he's gonna learn a lesson, but then he ends up stealing Santa's like gifts, and the whole like cul-de-sac hates him for it, and they're like beating him up for it, and he runs away, and then the other girls come out, and then that's when that whole thing happens, and he's like framed to be Jesus in this scenario. And so you're thinking, okay, well maybe that's because he's learned his lesson, he's learned humility. No, that the story just ends. He just ends being attacked by these girls, and that's literally the end of it. There's also a scene in this where he meets the girl that I guess he has a crush on, and she's wearing like a crop top and a mini skirt. Now again, I don't watch Edit, so someone will have to let me know in the comments, is she as sexualized as she is in the show? Oh, I don't like that. Anyway, it was entertaining enough, and the music and the visuals were enough to get me through it. So I will give this a solid 7 Christmas jawbreakers out of 10. Now it's at this point you may ask, why don't we have holiday TV specials anymore? Genuinely, the most recent one I can think of in any show or cartoon or otherwise was Amphibia, Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Hilda. And all of those shows are either ended or are going to be ending soon. And I do have an answer, but you're not gonna like it. And no, it's not because leftists are killing Christmas, okay? Tell your grandma to turn off Fox News. But it's rather quite simple. TV shows are not lasting as long anymore. And especially animated TV shows. They barely are able to last 2 seasons if they even get to that half of the time. I really want to know your opinion about this because there was an entire debate on Twitter about the Scott Pilgrim anime and how the producers really didn't think they were going to do a second season. And it was mostly because they didn't want to risk getting canceled. Which, like, yes, I do believe to an extent you should tell a full story within a season, but the thing that I loved about something like Gravity Falls is they were able to tell a full story within a season while still alluding to a greater narrative at hand. So I agree that like you should focus on telling a story for that season, but also if you have a larger story to tell, you should be able to tell it. The only long-running cartoon that I think still has holiday specials, or at least a holiday special right now, is Hilda. And Hilda is ending as far as I can tell. You should let me know if I should watch that, by the way, because I heard it was really good. Or is it? I don't know. You should let me know down in the comments. So keep that in mind as I talk about a lot of these shows that are pretty old. Like, these are older TV shows and not really any newer ones, because honestly I think that longevity is a part of the reason why these holiday specials are so special, because you get to have these characters for a very, very long period of time, and then you get to see something like a Christmas special, which can kind of be removed from the main story of the show, or sometimes not, and it's something that's like really special, and it feels special because you spent an entire year with this cast, you spent an entire year with these characters, if not more so, and now you get to be a little cozy with them. It's adorable. So let's go back a little less in time to the Chowder Christmas special, Hey Hey It's Knishmas. Season 2, episode 8 of Chowder is their one and only Christmas special. And much like I mentioned in my Cartoon Network video, which you absolutely should go watch, every show here has a distinct art style, and Chowder has one of the best distinct and unique art styles I think that Cartoon Network has ever produced. They also have this thing that they do where they sometimes, to emphasize a joke, it'll just go into like a super hyper realistic like stance, where it's super zoomed in and kind of creepy and kind of disgusting sometimes, but it really emphasizes a joke. They even have this entire like puppetry art style that they go into sometimes to break the fourth wall a lot of the times, and this one is no different. The first part of this episode is a narration, and it's all done in this puppet style. And you can see the patterns on like everybody's sweaters are more like parallaxed onto it, so it's like moving at a different rate than the characters themselves are moving, and it's really trippy when you look at it for like long enough, but it gives it such a distinct visual style. I love it so much. Now, why is Chowder dressed like this though? So the story follows Chowder, who wants broccoli trimmers for Knishmas, and he wants to ask Knish Crinkle, who he believes in, but a lot of people don't believe in them. This is weird. So a lot of people don't believe in Knish Crinkle in this world, but also at the same time, the whole thing is that you make a good schmingerbread. It's hard to pronounce. Schmingerbread house, and Knish Crinkle will come. And this is like a thing that like Endive and Mung are like fighting over about who makes the better schmingerbread house. So do they believe in Knish Crinkle or not? Like in the beginning, it seems like Mung doesn't believe in him, and he was the one who was gonna have to buy the like broccoli trimmers, but like Knish Crinkle is real. So I think, from what I can tell, I think because Mung, the whole conflict of this is that Mung doesn't know how to make a good schmingerbread house. So I think it's like he was originally just going to buy Chowder a gift, but what he wants is really expensive, so they have to rely on Knish Crinkle, but he can't because he makes a really bad schmingerbread house. I think that's the detail there, because we go back and forth between some people believing that Knish Crinkle is real and some people don't. I don't know the lore here. And I love that the whole thing with Chowder is that he's a apprentice of Mung and not his actual child, but pretty much, especially by the end of the show, that's Mung's child. That is their child. They treat him like their child. They have pretty much adopted him, which just reminds me of like those old stories that I hear about people who would be apprentices to somebody and they would just stay with them for like most of their lives, like most of their like adolescent to adult lives. They would just be an apprentice under this person until they then become professional. And I'm like, do you ever see your family? Like ever? Like, is Chowder supposed to be an orphan? Because we never see Chowder's parents. He never writes to them or talks to them or anything like that. As far as we know, Mung is his father. So I wonder, like, in real life, the real life parallels to that, did they like ever go see their parents, or were they just like, this person's my new dad now? Anyway, Mung still cannot make a schmingerbread house, and we get this iconic line that I'm sure you've heard.
And nothing can go wrong. Oh no, it all went wrong.
So he tries to swallow his pride and go buy a schmingerbread house from his enemy Endive. And Chowder sees this and gets really upset because he's like, no, he can't swallow its pride, it's too big. So he dresses up as Knish Crinkle with his friends to try and eat Mung's bought schmingerbread house, so that the actual Knish Crinkle, who apparently he knew was going to be there, doesn't eat it instead. And he tells Mung that it's okay, you know, I don't want you to have to stoop to that low of a level or to make you feel bad just for my gift. Like, don't feel it. And it's supposed to be this heartwarming thing of like, oh, he cares about Mung and he cares about his feelings and blah blah blah, but like in reality, it's just about not letting your enemy win. That is the moral of the story. Do not let your enemy win under any circumstances. And also be grateful for what you do have in the family and the support system around you, I guess. Now, I think that's a very good way to end this video. Something wholesome. Not letting your enemies win. Thank you so much for watching. I'm sorry. I almost forgot. How could I forget? We have to talk about Adventure Time. Now, y'all know this is not a cartoon video without me mentioning how much I love Adventure Time. Adventure Time has 2 holiday specials, but we're going to focus on the first one. Season 3, episode 19 and 20, Holly Jolly Secrets. Now, this episode absolutely blew my mind as a kid, because for some reason, I don't remember ever seeing a commercial for the holiday special for the show. Usually, when a holiday special is being made and being announced and being put on TV, there's usually a big stink about it. There's usually a bunch of commercials about it. Watch the holiday special at this time. Watch it, watch it, watch it. Unless I just missed it, I don't remember the commercials for this episode, which is funny because there's a gag in the episode about there being a commercial for this. So I'm wondering if that was the gag, if the gag was that there was no commercials for this episode, and that's why there's like a fake commercial in the episode. Also, Jake is Jewish canon. Good for him. So Finn and Jake discover VHS tapes buried by the Ice King and set them up to watch them. but most of them are crazy diaries by the Ice King, and there's just like so many of them. So this becomes like a compilation episode almost of like a bunch of like crazy ramblings by the Ice King. And let me tell you, Tom Kenny acted his ass off, as he always does, especially as the Ice King. Acted his motherfucking ass off, okay? He runs this. He runs it. Like, look at this man. He's a dance machine. He should have been at the club. So Ice King sees that they're watching some tapes, and he tries to join in any way possible. He makes it snow, which he thought was going to harm them, but in reality, it just makes everything a little bit more cozy. They put on sweaters that just happen to look like ugly Christmas sweaters and continue to watch his videos. Finn and Jake, mostly Finn, think that there is some type of like hidden message or meaning in this, and that they discover some evil plot that the Ice King has, and that's the reason why they're even watching these tapes in the first place. At some point, BMO tries to dissect this code, and it ends up just being this like image of Gunther in these like tier formation. And I love that, like, this is just a silly little thing because it's like, oh, Ice King and Gunther, but like knowing what we know now about the lore of Adventure Time and all the past life stuff, it's really cute to me and like wholesome that this kind of runs so deep as to like your very being is like made up of your past lives. And I think, I'm sorry, it gets me, this little joke gag that was played for laughs gets me, okay? The episode is pretty innocuous, all things considered. The Ice King sends snowmen after Finn and the gang as they engage in silly hijinks. If we're being honest, it doesn't really resemble any type of memorable holiday special, except for what happens next. While they are fighting the Ice King, BMO says that there's one last tape to play, and at Finn's request, he plays it. What plays, instead of what we have seen the entire episode of Ice King doing silly hijinks with Gunther, is a recording of Simon, who the Ice King was before he turned into the Ice King. Yeah, this holiday special that wasn't much of a holiday special just turned into a lore reveal. Yeah. What's 4 plus 4? Exactly. This is an entire season before we get the episode Remember You, by the way. The setup and the payoff of this is and it's all hidden inside of a innocuous holiday special. So Simon tells the story of how he found the crown and what it is currently doing to his mind when he puts it on. It gives him the powers of the ice and snow, but apparently he like blacks out and does a bunch of things that he can't even remember doing, but is obviously pretty scary to Betty. Come on, Betty Minchin. Come on now.
If I do things that hurt anyone, please forgive me.
Like, come on now, we are not playing around. Funny enough, I think if I had to show this show to a person like from scratch, from complete scratch, from zero zip nada, they know nothing about Adventure Time, and I had to show them a episode that was going to get them into the show, it would be this episode. A lore dump hiding as a Christmas special, hiding as a typical episode. These layers and being able to appreciate all of them is what makes me love this show so much. Simon reaches out for help, asking for anyone to take care of him while he tries to regain his sanity. And this shifts the entire meta of like, up until this point, you need to understand, up until this point, nobody knew anything about the Ice King. All these like episodes about Simon and everything never existed. This is the first time that we get to see Simon as he truly is. From then on, there's this sympathy and empathy all the main characters have around the Ice King. And as the viewers, this man in a state of madness is no longer funny. Of course, the Ice King remains a joking character for the rest of the show, but his presence is no longer a joke. Characters stop trying to avoid him as much, and when the episode Remember You comes on, it hits like a truck. The main theme around the Christmas time for me has always been community. The gang promises once a year to the Ice King to get together and to watch videos, and for a moment they have empathy for the Ice King and what has led the man to become what he is today. Intentionally or not, this may be one of the most important Adventure Time episodes, one that tells a story of community and empathy. And I don't think anyone was expecting that out of this. Like I said, this was barely like advertised anywhere from as far as I can remember. It was barely advertised anywhere. So much to the point where they had a running gag in the episode itself about it being advertised. I cannot believe that that is where we find out that Simon is the Ice King. What I love about specials like these is that they are usually a break from the traditional stories to tell a more concentrated, wholesome get-together. I love seeing these characters in a more casual setting than we are used to, and oftentimes they pull out characters we don't get to see that often, like the Worm from Adventure Time, Gorgonzola from Chowder, and that one paramedic fish guy from Spongebob. Like, I remember we just stopped seeing him at some point. This is more than just nostalgia to me. It's a constant reminder to lean on the community around you. you. And it being cold in the holidays is just an excuse. Thank you so much for watching to the end. If you did, you are a real one. These 2 videos were so fun to do. I didn't think they would be. I'm swamped with finals right now, but this is such a nice break and a nice reprieve to just talk about shows that I love and talk about Christmas specials because they hold such a nostalgic place in my heart. Like, if there's anything out of all the nostalgia in these shows, it is definitely like the Christmas specials that hold such a special place in my heart, because you really only watch them once a year, right? I mean, sometimes you may go back. If I'm doing like a lore video about Simon Petrikov, then obviously I'm gonna watch that episode, but like for the rest of these, you're probably only gonna watch them during Christmas time, and that leaves them in this area in your mind, in this time, this like frozen in place time in your mind every year. I also find great value in community in real life, and you know found family, it's me. Found family is me, babes. That is my favorite all-time trope of all time, and that's basically what Christmas specials are. So thank you guys so much for being my community. We grew to 3K this year. I don't think this is gonna be my last video, but just in case it is, thank you so much for getting us to 3K this year. I love this community so much. I love talking with y'all. When y'all leave those long-ass comments, I love them. Do not feel like you are being a burden by leaving long-ass comments. I love them. It may take me a little bit while to read them, but I love them, and I try to respond amicably to them. So thank you so much for being such an engaging community as well, because I could just make these videos and then have nobody comment on them, but like the fact that we get to have conversations and be an actual community, I really love that. So thank you so much. Just in case this is my last video of the year, I don't think it is, but just in case it is, I will hopefully, after finals is over, be streaming on Twitch. So you can find me on Twitch at AlleyDreamer. You can find me on all of my social medias. They will be linked down below. And thank you so much again. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you in the next episode. Happy 2024. Love and peace.